We must take that narrative and own it. I, as a Colombian American, can speak and can connect to this conflict when I go to the border and see my Latin American brothers and sisters being deported. It is the same imperialist, colonialist factors that are going into this that are playing out in Palestine and in Israel. Because it is this country, it is our beloved, again, so quote-unquote human rights friendly country. All equality for all, yeah, let's call ourselves hypocrites, because that's what we really are. Or our government hypocritical, because that's what they really are. And we must support resistance. We must support every single movement that's working for freedom and for liberty and for justice in Palestine. And for justice anywhere in the world. Because, again, the same imperialist, colonialist forces that are doing things that are allowing these humanitarian crises to happen all over the world. Again, let's look at our own borders as well as the borders of Gaza. Even though we may disagree with some of the more radical, as you may call it, movements in the fight for justice for Palestine, that doesn't mean we should outright not support them. Again, someone else said it. I'm not a Hamas fan, I'm not a Hamas cheerleader, but I understand that they are resisting. They are putting up a fight that others don't have the heart to, the courage to. And we should not be condemning them for this. I'll end with this. We must realize that the movement is stronger if we're together. Nelson Mandela reminded us that our freedom is not complete without the liberation of Palestine. Martin Luther King reminded us that injustice everywhere is the threat to injustice everywhere. So we need to keep this in mind in our fight. Thank you. Have a great day.
Palestine. So at last week's protest, I began my speech saying this. I stand here in front of you all today as a motherless child. It has been 9 years since I have seen my mother's face. 9 years since I have smelled her scent. 9 years of carrying that burden. And 9 years of facing a society that has seen me as nothing more than a lost cause, such as Palestinians have to deal with. And the last time I saw her, I did not see her, but a still white body. And for 9 years, I have carried this traumatizing image in my head. If I, as a somewhat privileged, because we are all privileged sitting here, we all have a home to go to at the end of this event. We all have a bed to go to. So if I, as a privileged, born and bred Egyptian American, still carry this burden and still struggle with it, I can't even begin to imagine the baggage the Palestinian people are carrying. So today, although I am not a Palestinian by blood, I am Palestinian by heart. We are all Palestinians. And at every other protest, I yell at everyone who's not chanting, and I say, if you're not losing your voice by the end of this protest, you are doing something wrong. And I point out the people too that I'm speaking directly at. But I also say that I stand here and I am ashamed to call myself an American, but at the same time, I am ashamed to call myself an Egyptian. So what is the only thing that I am proud to call myself? And that's a human being. only a sophomore and being only 19 years old, I understood that it would be very difficult to take on the presidency role, especially when I've never been an executive before. And before really deciding whether or not I wanted to be a part of John Jay College's SJP, there were a countless number of ideas flowing into my head that were convincing me not to join. One of them being, am I going to have time? The second one, is it worth my time? Joining this is not going to save Palestine. And my ultimate favorite that I hear from every other younger person around me is, I won't be able to get a job if my face is on a Palestinian protest. So, what do we do when not just me, but a lot of younger people are thinking? Although I had a countless number of questions and ideas that were convincing me not to join and not to be the face of John Jay College's SJP, it only took one idea for me to realize that I needed to be president of John Jay's SJP, and it was this. Palestinians use each and every second to fight for their rights, so why shouldn't I? Palestinians can't waste any time because at any moment they can be bombed or shot, so why should I? And joining this will not bring back the thousands of Palestinians, of the dead Palestinians from the grave, but it will create awareness. And when people are aware, we boycott, we divest, and we sanction until Israel pays for its crimes. And just like my mother is not a number to me, Palestinians shouldn't be looked at as numbers to everyone else. The worst part of this all is, like Mona and Where Should the Birds Fly? We as younger people, including me, and I am totally guilty of this, we have grown numb to seeing a Palestinian child with no legs, a Palestinian mother holding her dead child in her hands screaming, why? It has become the norm and we've completely normalized it as a youth, which is completely disappointing. But again, being an activist, if we felt every single pain for the people that we fight their rights for, we would just kill ourselves. So what do? Like Mona, the 10-year-old girl, we grow numb. And we look at these pictures and we stare at these videos and we don't feel anything. So what we do with John Jay's SJP, what we do nationally for for SJP is we make sure that it does not become the norm, that we fight every single day until Palestinians are liberated, until Palestinians can walk outside of their house without feeling danger, and until we can hear the laughter. I recently actually quit my job because someone decided to say, Palestine, what do you mean? Palestine doesn't exist. And I, took my bag and headed out the door. I was like, this stuff's not for me. But one of our biggest challenges as a student organization is connecting the Palestinian struggles to our own personal struggles, because let's face it, a large group of people will not fight for a cause unless it has something to do with them. So we continue to fight and we will not stop. And I made my club members actually take a swear, and not a promise, but a swear to put their left hand on their heart and their right hand up in the air to solemnly swear that they will not stop until justice is served and until Palestinians are free one day. Thank you all.